After a White House spy scare and rumblings of a rift with Israel, is Trump now delivering his most dramatic Iran warning yet, framing the moment as a last chance for a deal before force? With Israel fears rising in the background, is Trump's with or without the message to Iran a chilling hint that the U.S. will move on Tehran's nuclear program, even if cooperation collapses? Is Trump now racing against time, issuing a fresh Iran threat just as espionage claims explode in Washington and questions grow about who he can really trust around the negotiating table? Is Trump's latest warning essentially an ultimatum? Strike a nuclear deal now, on tougher terms, or face very harsh U.S. military action aimed straight at Iran's most sensitive sites? Amid fragile ceasefire talks in the region, Trump has insisted that a deal with Iran is now within striking distance, suggesting he believes only a small gap remains between both sides. On June 7th, he told NBC News that under such a deal the United States would help physically remove Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, treating it as a central pillar of the agreement. The U.S. president said American and Iranian teams could jointly destroy that nuclear material, either inside Iran or somewhere else, if trust is restored and a pact is signed. He emphasized that U.S. equipment would be used to take out and eliminate the uranium, presenting Washington as the key guarantor that the stockpile truly disappears. But if talks fail, Trump warned the U.S. would strike Iran's military very harshly, making clear he sees a military option as the fallback if diplomacy does not deliver. He added that, in that scenario, American forces would remove the nuclear material without Iran's cooperation, suggesting a forced cleanup after a major operation. Trump also claimed that U.S. space-based surveillance can closely track activity at Iranian sites, boasting that American cameras can monitor movement around sensitive facilities almost in real time. Trump said, and I quote, "If we make a deal that now we're friendly, we'll all go together. It'll be our equipment. We'll take it out and destroy it, whether it's on site or whether we take it off site. And we will go with them, or without them. But we won't have people shooting at us, okay? Now, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to take them out militarily very harshly. And we'll wait till we do that before we go, in which case we'll have safety either way. You know, we have cameras on it, all over it. If anybody walked there, if you walked over there, I would be able to read your first name on your lapel." Unquote. Trump has claimed that Tehran is prepared to accept a formal ban on developing nuclear weapons, presenting this as a central concession already on the table. However, he now wants the pact to go further and explicitly ban Iran from buying or otherwise acquiring nuclear weapons from any outside source, closing what he sees as a loophole. The U.S. president has said this extra language remains one of the key negotiating issues, indicating that diplomats are still haggling over the exact wording. Trump has suggested Iran initially pushed back on these tougher terms but later softened its stance, a shift he casts as proof that his pressure campaign is working. He now argues that only a handful of issues separate both sides from a final agreement, painting the moment as a narrow window where either a breakthrough or a breakdown is possible. Trump's latest statement lands against a backdrop of reports that Iran is edging closer to nuclear state capability, raising the stakes for any delay or miscalculation. Former intelligence analyst Larry Johnson has publicly asserted that Iran is approaching a point at which it may formally declare itself a nuclear power, a development he says could upend regional stability and global non-proliferation efforts. The same former CIA analyst further alleged that Pakistan dispatched a confidential red alert message to the United States, a discreet warning that, if accurate, would signal Islamabad's belief in an imminent and serious escalation. He added that Ishaq Dar personally delivered that urgent message to America's Secretary of State Marco Rubio in May 2026, implying direct, high-level communication between Pakistani officials and senior U.S. lawmakers. However, Pakistani authorities have denied these accounts, insisting they did not share any classified nuclear intelligence with Washington or any other party. Islamabad described the nuclear allegations as speculative, misleading, and categorically false, urging the media and policymakers to treat such reports with skepticism. Johnson also claimed that Masoud Pezeshkian had briefed Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif about Iran's nuclear status, suggesting the information circulated at very senior political levels. Veteran geopolitical commentator Pepe Escobar echoed similar concerns, warning publicly that Iran might be preparing to carry out a nuclear test to demonstrate its capabilities. Escobar went so far as to propose that Tehran could attempt to prove its nuclear capability with a controlled domestic explosion, a tactic he said would serve as a dramatic signal to the world. Johnson argued that recent shifts in U.S. rhetoric toward Iran are not coincidental but are instead connected to perceived advances in Tehran's nuclear program, prompting Washington to sharpen its public posture. He further claimed that tensions between the United States and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu intensified after the alleged intelligence reached Washington, complicating already fraught alliances. Johnson maintained that Iran deliberately used an unsecured telephone call as a signaling mechanism, a risky move he interpreted as intentional messaging rather than accidental exposure. According to Johnson, Tehran knowingly took the risk of having that call intercepted by Western intelligence agencies, suggesting the regime wanted any eavesdroppers to hear the message. Meanwhile, a reported U.S. Israel rift has deepened after NBC revealed Pentagon concerns over suspected Israeli spying, fueling talk in Washington that some allies might be trying to peer inside Trump's Iran playbook. NBC cited current and former U.S. officials who said those concerns emerged within the U.S. government in recent weeks. The report said the Defense Intelligence Agency raised Israel's threat level assessment to critical in an internal review. Officials told NBC the assessment reflected concerns over what they described as aggressive Israeli intelligence activity. The concerns reportedly centered on efforts to learn more about President Trump's plans and strategy for the Middle East. NBC said U.S. officials believed Israel was seeking greater insight into internal policy discussions and deliberations. The internal assessment was said to include concerns about both human intelligence and technical espionage risks. Israel's embassy in Washington rejected the claims and described the allegations as completely false. Israeli embassy spokesperson said, and I quote, "Israel does not gather intelligence on American entities, let alone U.S. government officials. Israel intelligence collection efforts aimed at its enemies, not its allies. Any claims to the contrary are either misinformed or politically motivated." Unquote. The White House also pushed back against the report, saying it was based on information it considered inaccurate. The Pentagon declined to comment publicly, while the Office of the Director of National Intelligence did not address the report. NBC said U.S. officials viewed the alleged activity as extending beyond what is typically expected between allied nations. The report surfaced as Trump and Netanyahu remained at odds over how to handle the future of the Iran conflict. Trump has continued to pursue diplomatic engagement with Tehran, while Israel has favored a more hardline approach. The report followed a recent heated phone call between Trump and Netanyahu regarding Israeli strikes in Lebanon. NBC had previously reported that Trump expressed frustration with Israel's military actions during recent discussions. Trump later confirmed that he had referred to Netanyahu as crazy during the sharp exchange. A rare public disagreement has exposed growing tensions between two of the closest allies in the Middle East. Trump acknowledged using the controversial remark during a heated conversation with the Israeli leader. The U.S. president indicated that Israel's ongoing campaign in Lebanon had become a major source of frustration. The remarks were made publicly during a podcast interview, turning a private dispute into an international headline. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. At some point I said, we got to stop this. We got to stop it." Unquote. Reports suggest Trump personally pushed for restraint, warning against actions that could further inflame the region. Even after the sharp exchange, Trump emphasized that his relationship with Netanyahu remains strong and intact. With Israel and Hezbollah continuing to trade blows across the border, U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly fuming behind the scenes. Donald Trump and his ally Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly held a heated conversation on June 1st as tensions escalated. The call allegedly deteriorated to the point where Trump called Netanyahu crazy, according to an Axios report. The expletive-filled outburst reportedly reflected Trump's growing frustration with Israel's actions in the region. Iran had allegedly threatened to walk away from negotiations with Washington, citing Israel's strikes in Lebanon. Trump also reportedly accused Netanyahu of showing ingratitude and demanded an immediate halt to Israeli airstrikes. The U.S. president allegedly warned Netanyahu that threats to bomb Beirut could leave Israel increasingly isolated worldwide. Trump reportedly reminded the Israeli premier that he had stood by him during his corruption trial troubles. Trump said, and I quote, "What are you doing? You're crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving you. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." Trump also allegedly argued that Israel was responding to Hezbollah attacks in a disproportionate manner. The U.S. president's reported rant comes as Israel expands military operations deeper into southern Lebanon. The Trump administration is also said to be concerned about the rising civilian death toll in Lebanon, Axios reported. A U.S. official told Axios that Trump effectively steamrolled Netanyahu during the June 1 conversation. Following Trump's rebuke, Israel reportedly pledged to stop striking Hezbollah-linked targets inside Beirut.